Hi folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. Last week I talked to you about this sort of obsession I've had with a new lure that I'm using. It's a lure that's been around forever, but it's called a Fluke. And there's almost every company out there makes a Fluke. And they're all going to look almost the same. In other words, you say, we want to use a 5-inch Fluke because the 5-inch size seems to work well. Now remember, as the seasons progress, different size baits work better than they might have in the spring or vice versa. But 5-inch Flukes, and there's probably a dozen companies out there, major companies that make Flukes. They all look the same. But I got to tell you, every single one of them will act differently from the other depending on the type of plastic they use, the way they taper the tail. There's so many different variables. The plastic itself can be so critical because if they use, and I'm not going to say this right, but it's Eliza Tech or something, it's a type of plastic that is almost impossible to, you can pull it, stretch it, it's not going to break, it doesn't cut, you can catch 100 fish on the same lure, but it floats, it doesn't sink. And if you want a bait that's going to sink on its own without using a jig head or a weight, then this isn't maybe what you want to use. And so you could get an incredible looking Fluke. Again, I'm using that funny word. I'm sure Fluke sounds funny to a lot of you. But you can use the same lure, and it can either float, it can sink quickly, it can be half and half. I mean, there's so many variables. And so what you have to do, and here's the difficult thing, you can go in a store and you can look, but you can't tell just how that soft plastic is going to work until you use it. The other thing that really differs between them is they may have the same shape, but in the water, they won't react quite the same. Some of them, the tail is really going to dart around a lot. Others are going to almost look like a slug in the water. And unfortunately, you're going to have to determine and experience and sort of play around with each one until you find the one that works best for you. For me, Zoom, that's a company, Zoom Flukes seem to be the best for me. They slowly sink. They really seem to dart around a lot, and they come in a lot of really interesting colors. So remember, like we've talked before, different strokes for different folks. Well, different Flukes for different folks, depending on how you like to fish. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.